Hey, Rob from Order 42 here, and today we are going to be talking Star Wars. Yeah, I know it's been a while. It's been a while since I've had to talk Star Wars because there's just not been a lot of movement. Of course, we have the Bad Batch going on right now, but yeah, J.J. Abrams did a little interview over there at Collider, and he was talking a little bit about the lack of plan that came to the when it comes to the sequel trilogy, and even though I don't necessarily think he's the only one to blame, well, you know what? Let's just see what he has to say about it. So I've been thinking about this for, well, ever since the news came out that JJ did this interview with Collider, talking about the lack of planning when it comes to Star Wars and whether or not it would have been a good thing. Well, look, whatever you believe, that's really all it is. It's a belief. You don't really know what happened, what went down, who made all the decisions. Obviously, JJ may be to blame for some of the decisions made in the movie. Chris Terrio may be to blame for, some of the choices made in the storyline. You could say that Kathleen Kennedy may be to blame because she's the head of Lucasfilm, right? Or Bob Iger because he was the head of Disney at the time. I tend to think that there's a little bit of shared blame kind of across the board, but we'll get into that. JJ actually says the following. He says, I've been involved in a number of projects that have been, in most cases, series that have ideas that begin the thing where you feel like you know where it's going to go. And sometimes it's an actor who comes in, other times it's a relationship that is written doesn't quite work. And things that you think are going to just be so well received just crash and burn. And other things that you think like, oh, that's a small moment or that's a one episode character suddenly became a huge important part of the story. I feel like what I've learned is a lesson a few times now, and it's something that, especially in this pandemic year, working with writers, the lesson is that you have to plan things as best you can, and you always need to be able to respond to the unexpected. And the unexpected can come in all sorts of forms, and I do think that there's nothing more important than knowing where you're going. Look, the fact is, I think JJ was doing a great job with The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens was a ton of fun. But if you really think about it, it's because JJ's always been an idea guy, right? He's always been the guy at the beginning of a series that comes up with all these little cool mystery boxes and great characters and great ways to set things up. And then he lets those writers go and they live in the world. They breathe life into the rest of the world and they eventually finish up the world, right? They finish up the series. Someone else finished Lost. Someone else finished Alias. It's just one of those things that I kind of look at the situation that JJ was in, at least at the beginning. He was in a great place. He was setting up all this cool stuff. Oh, well, we can't have Luke there because he would just take over the story. So yeah, he's just on an island, right? And that's what happened, right? JJ sent him on an island and said, okay, well, we'll show him at the end. We'll show him, doing all these cool things or whatever. Ryan actually said, it doesn't really make sense for him to be there unless he was this. So can you not have him floating rocks around and all this stuff? Look, again, JJ was coming up with the cool idea, and I think he set up a world that I thought had a lot of potential. It reminds me a lot of Stephen King in a way that Stephen King can introduce a character, and he can be just like, oh my gosh, I want to know more about this character. And you just want to keep reading. I think JJ has a gift for that. He has a gift for creating characters, creating situations at the beginning of a story. And usually he falls back on his writing staff to, carry out the rest of the series. Because really, the original trilogy kind of worked the same way that Disney had envisioned it, right? You have a different director and writer for each one. And for the most part, it worked for the original trilogy, but you had one guy basically being the goalie, right? The guy keeping everybody in the lines. You had George Lucas there as the creator, of course. It's great to have the creator on board when you can, but that's what you needed. You didn't really need a whole entire plan. In fact, the original trilogy wasn't planned out as well either. In From Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, which is an excellent, excellent, excellent documentary, by the way. If you're interested in George Lucas and the process and how things were done back then, it's really, really fun. It's a documentary I've been watching, well, since 1983, pretty much. But anyway, he says, so when I got down to the second film, I had to make a decision about whether I was really going to go through with this thing of him being his father. And finally decided that really was the way. It was the original story, and that was the one I really liked the most, so I'd stick with it. I'm just trying to say that, yeah, you can play around. You don't have to follow this strict plan all the way through. I mean, look, they didn't even know when it came down to Vader taunting Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi to get him to fight. That wasn't in the script. They basically figured it out right then. It was like, oh my gosh, it's Leia. He's gotta say that he'll get Leia to the dark side. That'll make him fight. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you learn about and you understand and you go, okay, wait a minute. Okay, if that's true, then yeah, a lot of this stuff could have just been made up on the spot. And that's what makes it beautiful. The creation of movies. It's so much fun is because you never know what's going to happen. But the whole idea, right? The whole idea of doing it this way is it's almost like, a couple of really good guitarists, right? One plays a riff and then the other one plays a riff and then the other one builds on that riff based on the last riff, and that's kind of the way things work. I mean, that's supposed to be the way things were going to work. And in my opinion, a lot of people disagree with me on this, and I understand that. But in my opinion, Rian Johnson did a great job of taking what he was given from The Force Awakens and building on it, making it different. And look, to me, the job of a second film is to take all of those existing characters, especially in a trilogy. You take all of those existing characters and you change them. You change each one of them individually forever, right? You make them go through something that changes them. And that's what happens in this second movie. Every single character. Poe goes from reckless to being a leader. Finn goes from only caring about himself and caring about Rey and trying to find Rey. He goes from caring about the cause. Rey goes from wondering if she'll ever be anything unless she's, related to someone, to she's standing on her own 2 feet and fighting because she's got the power within her, right? I mean, that's kind of cheesy when I say it that way, but you get what I'm saying. Every single character. Kylo Ren changes, right? Luke changes. That's the point of a second movie. It's taking the character from point A to point B, and it's an irreversible change. And I think that, in my opinion, he succeeded in that. And the thing to remember about The Last Jedi, I know it's got its fans and it's got its detractors, but the fact is, Lucasfilm loved it. In fact, they loved it so much that a couple of months before it was actually released, before anyone got a chance to see it, Lucasfilm gave Rian Johnson a whole trilogy to do. So, yeah. But based on that, based on the reaction, well, let's just be honest. There was vitriol in the streets. There were people that were, getting so angry about certain characters that they were bullying them off of social media. I mean, look, it was ridiculous. But unfortunately, someone, like I said, don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know if it was Bob Iger. Not sure who it was, but someone made the decision to, oh, so you're telling me that Colin Trevorrow's script builds off of what Rian did in the second movie? Well, nobody seems to like the second movie, so let's just can that and let's start over, right? And that's what they did. They went and got Chris Terrio to come in and write a script that, well, spent half the movie rewriting the second movie. And this came out, well, a while ago, but it still is one of those things that sticks in my craw, because the original plan was to make her a Kenobi. In fact, I even remember that Daisy did an interview shortly after The Force Awakens, and people were asking, well, who are your parents? Who are your parents? And she goes, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Yeah, it is. If you watch the movie, it's obvious. Ben calls her name, and then at the end tells her, these are your first steps. You don't go and get Ewan McGregor to voice that line if you don't have a plan. And I think that was the original plan. Of course, Rian Johnson came along and said, you know what? Screw all that. Everybody's related to everybody. Let's just make her a no one. Make her someone that finds the strength within her. And I mean, like I said, honestly, I like that. I totally like it better than her being a Palpatine. But that's what happened, right? Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams came in and said, we're just gonna make her a Palpatine. We're gonna redo the Dark Empire comic from Dark Horse, because why would they do that? Josh Gad did this interview with Daisy, and she said, yeah, no. At the beginning there was toying with like an Obi-Wan connection. There were like different versions, and then it really went to that she was no one. Then it came to episode 9, and JJ pitched me the film and was like, oh yeah, Palpatine's granddaughter. I was like, awesome. Then 2 weeks later he was like, oh, we're not sure. So it kept changing. Even as we were filming, I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be. Now, look, I'm all for improvisation, but that's kind of crazy, right? I mean, you at least got to figure that part out before you start filming. I mean, right? I think most people can agree that if JJ had been hired to do the whole trilogy, it probably would have been pretty okay. If Ryan had been hired to do the whole trilogy, it probably would have been okay. Unfortunately, I honestly think that what it comes down to, especially if you look at what happened and how things went down, the actual way that the decisions were made, to me, it seems that somebody at Disney said, "Well, we got to check and find out what's going on over at Lucasfilm, because apparently they don't know how to run things because their fans hate the movie." So they go in there and they say, we're going to change this. We're going to fire Colin Trevorrow. You're going to start over, and you're going to basically look, find this thread on Reddit and just go find out what they want. And unfortunately, in trying to please everyone, they pleased very few. And like I said, I've said this before, film is subjective, right? I mean, I like The Last Jedi. A lot of my friends don't. A lot of people like Rise of Skywalker. I think it's terrible. So it doesn't matter, really. But I'm just trying to say that yeah, sometimes having a plan is a good thing, but it's also good that, a lot of trilogies don't seem to have a plan at all, and they turn out okay. I think what the really big thing is to have at least someone there to kind of make sure that the ball is in play, instead of taking the ball away and moving to another city to do it. That's a bad example. You know what I'm saying? I it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that they had all the pieces there, and because of a couple of loud people, we got Rise of Skywalker. So look, this is one of those topics that, can be sort of inflammatory, and there's going to be people that disagree with me, and there's people that are going to agree with me wholeheartedly. Look, I'm just trying to give you my point of view, try to kind of piece together exactly what happened and what went down, and maybe there's there's some good things that came out of it. I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. All I know is that it feels like with the Mandalorian, they've kind of got, I don't know, they've got a good idea of what's going on now, right? I mean, I think Dave Filoni is being what is he, the executive creative director or whatever he is now. That's awesome. And you I don't think that you can find a better person than Dave Filoni, right? So again, if you want to leave some comments down below and tell me that I'm an idiot, okay, leave them down below and we'll talk about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.